One. It is a chilly morning here in Nairobi. My name is Betty Kiptum and Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation, and you are in time for BizCheck. Over the next 2 hours, we shall be having conversations on matters cross-border payments. How does the regulation or policy environment look like? What is the government, private sector as well doing to ensure that the cost of cross-border payment comes down, especially in the African continent, considering it is the highest across the world? The second hour, we shall be talking about matters AI. Kenya launched its AI artificial intelligence strategy, and we shall be delving deeper into that, just exactly what that strategy will do for the Kenyan AI space. But first, we want to take you to an event which is happening in South Sea of Nairobi, where the UK Digital Access Program they are having a workshop there for Mandera and Busia counties. That is the CES in charge of information communication and digital economy, William Kafogo. Let's listen into that.
That they have decided to do to give Kenyan scholars, B+A students, 8 scholarships to go and study in Romania. And you know Romania is #1 in cybersecurity, so 5 in cybersecurity and 3 in digital skilling. So I tell my friends from the disadvantaged counties, we can spare 1 of the 3 to go to a student from that region. But I'm also hoping that our friends, long-term friends, UK, something should happen so that we can get a couple of these students out there, so that they can come and do what it is you are doing, and for Kenyans themselves to become trainers of trainers in digital skills. As you know, as we spread internet or fiber optic in the whole country, we also have a plan to have cyber security to have digital hubs in every electoral ward that will be used as a training center, and hoping that the young men and women who are trained in these hubs should be able to go out there and open their own digital hubs for purposes of young Kenyans to do businesses or their business in this platform. So Kenya, as we have always had, and I'm sure the chair has said this, is the Silicon Savannah of Africa. We may be #1 in Africa, but we are globally placed to be amongst the global players. And this, we truly appreciate the help that we are getting from World Bank, UK government, French government, and most of the European Union governments, and we truly appreciate. And if you give them an applause, I will tell them you did that. So, besides government bureaucracy, which we are always told we have, this Waziri, this minister, is trying his best to make sure that this platform is good for all players. Another day, I don't know where I was. Apparently, this ministry has ambassadors flowing in. So this is the busiest ministry. Because if you're not in the digital space, mazee umepotea. You understand what I'm saying? You should be on this platform. This is where the future is. And when we were in that function, one guy on the platform said, you know, the former minister. And that was Nyambura, Professor Dr. Nyambura. And then he said the former, meaning Owalo. So when I took the podium, I told him, don't ever say that again, because you might make me former. You know, this job is good, Banaungwai, lakini, when the car is out there, you have to keep a guy there to make sure that it is still there and it has a flag. And otherwise, you may come out and find your job is done. It's a challenging job, but things should change as we go forward. And one day, government will look like a private company, the same way you have efficiency. In private companies, government should be efficient. And two things that I speak about all the time is to do the right things and do them effectively. So one is about effectiveness, the other one is about what you plan to do, do it best. And we are thriving to do what is good for our country in this space, and I'm happy that so far, so good. Allow me to read what I've been given to read. I have a little bit of input, so disclaimer is that not everything I'll say is by me.
That is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Information, Communication and Digital Economy, William Kafogo, speaking at the UK Digital Access Programme workshop. And of course, he said that the government is enhancing its digitization program of its services to ensure that it is as efficient as how privately run companies are. Well, our reporter Alan Aoko is on that bit, and he shall be filing a detailed report from that event a little bit later. We stay in South Sea, where the commissioner's interview for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, commissioner's interviews have been ongoing. Let's listen in to the proceedings there.
Finances are concerned. And one of the structures that have been put there is to have an audit and risk committee at the commission. So how important is audit and risk oversight at IBC?
Thank you so much.
What importance will that be to IBC?
Okay, thank you so much, sir. The audit committee is an external organ for IBC and other commissions. However, there is always a commission representative, maybe one commissioner. Audit is extremely very important for any organization, and particularly IBC, because the prudent utilization of resources must reflect the expectations of Kenya. And the internal audit, therefore, looks both at the financial and accounting processes and procedures, as well as the quality management services, which are non-financial. And the reporting of the internal audit is usually a measure and an indicator of the direction in which programs are being implemented, and whether there is value for money, and whether there is anything that is not very clear. So the audit committee gives an independent view of the way finance and programs are being executed in IBC. And therefore, it is a very critical committee. As we speak today, I think the audit committee still exists, despite the fact that there are no commissioners in IBC.
Thank you, Dr. and I wish you well. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. I invite Mr. Misati to ask you some questions.
Those are proceedings from South Sea, where the IEBC commissioner's interview is ongoing. Of course, we shall be keeping tabs with what's going on there across the entire day during our different programs. We now get back to studio and start our conversation on matters cross-border payments. And with me in studio is Edward Nakitare. He is the KCB Senior Manager in charge of international money transfers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Betty, for having me.
Karibu sana. Let's start with where cross-border payments is or are currently in the African region, please.
Okay, so I think maybe we take a step back and look at the history of cross-border payments and how we've gotten to where we are right now. I think trade, cross-border payments goes hand in hand with trade and remittances. Remittances here being, a migrant who's not living in his country sending money back home. So what used to happen back in the days, we used to trade in cowrie shells. So, imagine I give you cowrie shells for value of the items that you're giving me. And then we had barter trade. So barter trade, then cowrie shells. Then when we started getting into the banking sector, we got what you currently know as SWIFT, right? Which has become sort of an international standard for banking. And SWIFT was for a very long time one of the ways that a bank could send money from one country to the other. It has been a very fantastic service. It has its challenges. However, what we are looking at right now is more and more Africans are looking for instant, more affordable, I dare even say faster ways of sending money. And that's the landscape we find ourselves in right now, where the consumers or our customers are requesting or have challenged us to find solutions of sending money instantly cross-border. So that's where we are. We're in a phase where moving money cross-border is instant. Long are the days when we used to say it takes 2 to 3 days.
Right.
Now it's an instant service, and that's the reality we face ourselves in. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now, just to put it into perspective, in 2022, cross-border remittances in Africa was at $100.1 billion. Right. $19.4 billion were intra-Africa, within, Africa to African country. Right. Sub-Saharan Africa itself contributed $53 billion. That is over half. So that means it is a very big need, so to say, in the Sub-Saharan region where Kenya is. Right. We know that one of the big challenges is the cost of these cross-border payments. Please tell us why this is so. Why are the costs of sending money into Africa or outside of Africa very high?
Well, there's several reasons. I think the topmost one, for me, that I feel makes the cost of transfers at least very expensive, is how many actors play in that whole ecosystem. Okay. Now, if you imagine who the customer, where the customer is hosted, or who owns the customer for that matter, right? So if it is a bank or it's a mobile wallet, you're looking at transfers going between maybe 3-4 hands before it gets to the ultimate beneficiary. And there are costs involved with moving these transfers, rightfully so, right? So the person who's originating the transaction, or the entity that's originating the transaction, will probably be linked with another entity in the middle, and then there's another entity before it gets to the ultimate beneficiary. So in that whole value chain, you find 3-4 actors, each has costs associated to it, and that is what causes the cost of transactions to go quite high. That's one. Number two, I think we are largely dependent on legacy systems. So systems that have been here for a very long time, that perhaps do not boost efficiency in terms of how you process transactions. So those legacy systems have, to a great extent, influenced how much the cost of transactions is or are for people moving money across, especially sub-Saharan Africa, which is not the case when you look at other markets, like you put it. Other markets have more efficient ways of moving money. And I take you back to the instant. So every time the service is instant, it means you have less players who are playing in that whole ecosystem. It makes it much cheaper, maybe 2-3 partners at most in terms of that transaction. Yeah.
You've brought up the issue of legacy systems. Yeah. And of course, it's the new age, the digital age, innovations are coming up. What do you think should be done to upgrade these systems? Isn't it just a matter of upgrading systems, or why is it taking so long? Let's say that.
Well, there has been significant investment in the legacy systems, rightfully so, to be able to support the quantum of business and customers that we have. That has obviously made it very expensive. And some of these legacy systems are designed for scale, not necessarily for efficiency, right? But for me, where I think, why, you ask a very good question, why have we not upgraded? I think maybe we should turn that question from why and what can we do about it, right? What can we do about it? And collaboration and partnerships are the most, the best way to go about it, because the reality of any position you find yourself in life is there will always be somebody else who does whatever it is you're doing faster, cheaper, more effective, right? So if you look at the onset of all these fintechs that are coming on board, providing quicker, easier, more efficient ways of doing it, instead of crashing them, instead of not supporting them and in a way, we should look at collaborating with some of these efficient services that exist, new technologies that exist, not necessarily having to replace what we have, is just to build efficiency against collaboration. I think for me that's the quickest way to go there, because if you say we have to do away with all the legacy systems, then there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? But you don't have to stop then start. You can do it in tandem, and I think collaboration for me might be the quickest way to get us to where we need to go. Yeah.
And of course, a lot of fintechs have come up in this space.
Absolutely.
And they are bringing the costs down. But as you say, collaboration is very important. You sit in the banking sector. Are banks collaborating?
Absolutely. And allow me to speak about KCB and what we do is, so we have an entire unit that just focuses on fintech partnerships, right? Majority of even the businesses that we support from cross-border payments are fintechs. So fintechs have taken that forefront in terms of identifying the need that was there. Needs such as, how do we reduce the cost of remittances, for example? How do we make movement and payments easier and quicker, right, and cheaper? And they have low operating costs compared to, the likes of banks, right? And as such, they're able to develop solutions that are much faster, quicker, and easier. And I dare even say scalable, right? Because scalability, I think, for us as a bank is very important, because looking at a customer base of 33 million customers, you need to be able to have something that is able to manage these customers and provide services to each and every customer, still maintaining whatever your value proposition is. So if it is efficiency, then it should be able to do that for 33 million customers plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about when you're doing cross-border payments, there's the issue of security.
Yeah.
These are digital platforms.
Yeah.
We know that cyber attacks or cyber threats, so to say, have been on the rise. For Kenya specifically, they shot up in 2024. And the government and private sector has been working towards ensuring that we are improving our cyber security. From a cross-border payments perspective, how safe are these transactions?
Now, security is very, very important, especially when looking at cross-border payments. Yeah. Why? Because money is very emotive, right? So behind every remittance that's being sent, there's something that it's going to do. It's either supporting friends and family or paying for a bill or service, something of that sort. So from a security perspective, I think from where we sit as a bank, one of the key things that we have to ensure is that whatever platform you're using has to be secure as per bank standards. And I think if it doesn't pass bank standards, then it's not worth your time, isn't it? Right? So we have, for most banks, even from a regulatory standpoint, is to ensure that the systems that are being used are secure first and foremost, have been taken through rigorous testing from a security perspective. And just even over and above that is for every transaction that's being processed cross-border, are you able to screen that transaction against, the money laundering list, for example, or counter-terrorist financing? And that's one of the requirements that we have. So if you're doing a cross-border transaction, then you need to be able to demonstrate that you have enough systems in place, first, to secure that transaction, and number two, to screen against any, possible, lists that exist out there for money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. Yeah.
They say that systems are only as strong as the people using those systems.
True.
What else do you do in terms of ensuring that your people are ready to use these systems and securely, so to say?
So again, as a bank, what we do is, so we educate our customers, right? So I think everyone has found, every once in a while, you found a message telling you, keep safe, your PIN is your password, keep it safe, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that we realize is you can have the knowledge in terms of, I need to be secure, but sometimes it's very easy for even the best of us to be duped, right? So one of the things that we are actively doing is educating our customers. So we spend lots of communication just telling our customers how to stay safe online. We train our colleagues, our staff, on knowing exactly what it means to stay safe, right? From an online perspective, because many a time we take for granted how easy it is to log into, say, your mobile banking app and do a transaction, right? But the levels of security that go behind or are behind to ensure that no funny characters are trying to intercept those messages that are being passed across. So it is important, for one, our staff to be educated, which we do, I think, on a quarterly basis, to ensure they're up to speed in terms of what are some of the threats, new threats that exist out there. And then secondly, to our customers. Even from a fraud perspective, when you walk into any branch, you'll find fraud posters, and then there'll be forums talking to our customers about how to stay safe, right? So you can't be 100% safe, but if you're aware, then you know how to identify potential threats. Yeah.
Let's stay right there just a little bit for the sake of our viewers. We know that there are instances where people have lost money. So what would you tell someone in terms of the specifics of keeping their money safe when they're making a transaction, whether it's locally or internationally?
So I think the major thing, so there's two ways where people things can go wrong, right? So the first is when it's a fraudulent transaction, when you're being duped by the end recipient, all right? And second is how you access your devices or how you access your money, right? So on the first bit, I think just being vigilant. If something sounds too good to be true, more often than not, it's not, you know what I mean? So just being vigilant in terms of if you're sending money, what channels are you using? Are you using, for example, reputable channels? And there's always easy ways to verify some of this information. For example, if you wanted to know whether a service has been licensed and regulated, first and foremost, any entity that is doing cross-border transfers needs to be licensed and regulated by a credible regulator, right? And most of these regulators will have listed some of the services on their websites, right? So if you're in doubt, just do a quick Google search, go to the respective regulatory body, search for that company. If it's not there, then maybe think twice about it. Secondly, so that's in terms of of the entities that you're using. And speaking about how customers lose money, and it's simple things like if you are logging into, say, your banking app, for example, use, say, mobile data as opposed to a public Wi-Fi, right? Those are very easy ones to because on a public Wi-Fi, you don't know who's watching, right? Many people could be watching. And therein could lie, very many threats in terms of being able to lose money. So rule of thumb, if you're logging to your banking, for example, banking apps, use a secure network, so use mobile internet banking or a Wi-Fi network that and trust. Mostly public Wi-Fis, because they're public, anybody can be on the network, and that can make it easy for you for something bad to happen. The other thing is, as soon as you're done processing your payment, log out from the session. Don't leave the session on. Many a times, as with most apps, is your idea of being done with that app is just exiting. It's not logging out, it's just exiting.
Yeah.
So for what we encourage our customers is when you're on your app, you're done with your transaction, actually log out. Don't just leave the app and assume, that it's logged off. But banks do have, such as KCB, we've put measures in place to ensure that if there's no activity on your app, we actually log you out, right?
Okay.
But the rule of thumb should be, as soon as you're done transacting, log off. Don't use public Wi-Fis. Yeah.
I think, a lot of us, we just get off the app. It's still running in the background, but so that when you get into public Wi-Fi, the hackers do their thing.
Exactly.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, we know that the demand is increasing for cross-border payments, and there's the gig economy. Young people are doing remote jobs and they are being paid in dollars from various countries. So what is the future looking like for players in this space of cross-border payments?
So I think what people need to understand, or any financial institution needs to understand, is that we need to innovate as quickly as our customers are, if not faster, right? So if our customers are seeking better opportunities cross-border, then you need to find and have a plan for a cross-border transfer space. Remember, part of our mandate as banks is to ensure that our customers are able to send and receive funds, whether domestic or globally, right? If you have money in your account, those funds need to do something, right? So those funds will either do an investment, they'll either pay, they'll either invest, etc., etc. So what we are seeing, at least in our space, is more and more of the younger generation is looking for opportunities outside the country. Not necessarily having to leave the country, but looking for opportunities outside the country. Because we have very skilled populace, very skilled young populace who are selling their services globally. Now, as financial institutions, the biggest challenge or the biggest ask that we've gotten from our customers is, how do I get paid and get the money into my account right now? We're in the right now generation, right? And I think that's the theme that we are seeing, at least from a cross-border payment space. Before, it used to be you should be able to get money, right? And it ended at that. How you get it is neither here nor there. Now it's, I need to get my money now. I need to get my money in different mediums. So it's not just being able to, say, walk into a location and collect cash. I need to be able to have that money sitting in my mobile wallet. I need to have that money sitting in my my bank account. So how do you enable this this new gig economy, or this new segment of customers to be able to receive and send money? Because the reality is, as much as we are also receiving money, we have a lot of Kenyans who are doing businesses outside, right? And there are many reliable ways that they send, say, their goods and issue their services globally. So how do they pay, right? How do they pay for their services, for example? Are you still subjecting them to the old ways of sending, where, you know, you send, they have no visibility over how long that transaction will take or where that transaction is what are you doing as a financial institution to enable this customer have full transparency when they're pushing a transaction, and of course at a cost-effective way. Yeah.
I think the beauty of customers having demand is that there will be competition. You know, someone will come up with a solution to rival what already exists, and that is very good for the consumer. Yes. From a regulatory perspective, policy and regulatory perspective, how do you think the African continent is doing?
I think we've taken great strides. And great strides, I mean, if you look at, just follow what is happening with how many fintechs are just mushrooming, right? So I'm very passionate about fintechs, right? So I'll speak about the whole fintech space and what's happening there. You tend to see, you know, a lot of things happening, say, in Nigeria, in Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, and everywhere where money is involved, then you need to have a policy in place, right? You need to have somebody who's policing, or somebody who has oversight of what is happening. So I think in the past, say, five or so years, the regulators have really stepped up in terms of keeping up with this growing need of fintechs and solving solutions. So much so that, like, you see even in Kenya, so there's a whole department in central bank that just focuses on payment systems and fintechs and the like, just to be able to guide policy and regulation that bit. And that's the same case you find in countries like Nigeria and Egypt. And more regulators across the continent are seeing the need to have these things in place, because, as I said, if you don't adapt as quickly as you can, guess what? Guys will find other ways to do it. And especially where money is involved, I think it's very important. And regulators have understood this, and they're doing quite a lot in terms of getting us to where we need to be. So making it even easy, for example, and there have been discussions, the other day I saw those discussion around the EAC East African community in terms of harmonizing how we do cross-border payments, as well as just harmonizing some of the policies we have from a regulatory standpoint for licensing. And that's a step in the right direction. So you can imagine this is not just happening here, it's also happening so in West Africa, it's happening in North Africa, and the hope and the desire is one day to have one unified one as an African continent, isn't it? But yeah, we're not there yet, but I think we're making steps in the right direction. Yeah.
When you speak of fintechs, the startup industry is very vibrant in Kenya, and I think over 80% is fintech. Yeah. So that's pretty big. So from what you've said, you work in the Kenyan context, or the East African context, so to say. What more can be done?
I think banks are well suited to support fintechs, right? So in itself, for the case of our viewers, fintech is financial technology, right? Yes. And traditionally, and if you look at most economies, even how economy is set up, banks are still central to the whole financial institution or the financial services sector. And I think what needs to change, or what we need to do, is we need to have more banks coming in to support these fintechs, right? And I'll give you a very easy interpretation of why I say this. Is imagine a fintech that needs to provide a solution for paying of school fees, for example. Say you've had a very rudimentary way of paying school fees. Maybe you walk to a branch, you deposit money, but you don't have time, right, to walk into a branch, for example, and do this. And then here comes a fintech that tells you, I'm providing you a very easy way of having repeat payments directly to the school, right? Guess what? That school has an account with a bank, doesn't it? Now, the bank would either choose to not support this fintech in offering this service and decide I'm going to go and just do it myself, or they could choose to collaborate and provide services, open APIs for the fintech to be able to say debit or credit directly to that account or directly from your bank account. I think those are some of the things that just banks deliberately need to focus on, right? So start looking at the fintech as a normal customer. So not just segmenting them as competition, but looking at them as a customer who needs a service that the bank can provide, and also collaborate with them.
Right. And now from a fintech perspective, you said you work with a lot of them.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from that end?
So a lot of fintechs are actually crossing over to the cross-border space, and payments and cross-border. I think especially on the e-commerce side, I can name numerous fintechs that have come into the bank and they're looking for us to support them, in APIs that allow them, say, to debit bank accounts or validate transactions, etc., etc. And the reason I know I've seen it, is there's a direct correlation between an entrepreneur spirit in terms of what a lot of the young people are doing in terms of getting small businesses, right? So a lot of businesses are coming up. And maybe I can even pose this question to you. When's the last time you actually physically walked to a shop to buy an item? Very few times, isn't it? Yeah. Majority of the time, you're on social media, you're online, you're on a website, you're looking for items. Now, a lot of fintechs are powering these small businesses. Again, it's based on need. So a lot of businesses are going online, they're going digital, in terms of they don't need to have physical stores. In fact, most of the places I buy my items are online. They don't even have a physical store. I don't even know who runs these pages or who runs these things. I don't have a face to it.
Right.
But every other month, I'm purchasing something from them. And every other time, with every new, say, business that's coming on board, there's a fintech behind it that's powering that payment, right? Whether I'm paying via mobile money or I'm doing a direct bank debit, there's a fintech that's providing that service. So I guess, does that answer your question?
It does, indeed it does. Thank you very much. I'm speaking with Edward Nakitare, who is the Senior Manager in charge of International Money Transfers at Kenya Commercial Bank, KCB. And we are talking about matters cross-border payments and how the space is looking like, the importance of fintechs in this space, as well as bringing the costs down. I now want to take you back to South Sea for a little bit, where the IEBC Commissioner's interview is ongoing. Let's just listen into those proceedings.
By the Department of Political Science. Amadi, Jonyo.
No, you don't have to.
No, I'm coming about. So the interesting thing about Sasakawa is that there was a clause because the scholarship came through the University of Nairobi, Department of Political Science and Public Administration. They had a bias that you have to do international relations. And that's why some of my classes were from diplomacy EDs.
So you'll want to correct your CV as you gave to the Secretariat?
No, it is correctly so, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Very well. I was just going to the record that every other panelist has, so that when they are looking at it vis-a-vis what you said, then now we go by what you have said on record as opposed to what is in their files.
Correct.
Very well. Let me start from where Madam Fatma left. I know you withdrew the word suppression.
Yes.
But I think the point there is that if you go to the Constitution,
Yes.
at Article 19(3), which forms the Bills of Rights, the rights and fundamental freedoms in the Bill of Rights, A, belong to each individual and are not granted by the state. Okay? That's the Constitution. B, do not exclude other rights and fundamental freedoms not in the Bill of Rights, but recognized or conferred by law, except to the extent that they are inconsistent with this chapter. So the right of Kenyans to vernacular station is not one of those that are limited under Article 25, which states fundamental rights and freedom that may not be limited. So these ones can be limited, the ones you're talking about, but the freedom from torture, blah, 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 to a fair trial and all that, those ones can. So I think what you wanted to communicate was that this other right to vernacular stations can be limited, and I guess the question was how and under what law can it be limited? And as you explain further, is that the duty of IEBC, or does that fall under the purview of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, so that IEBC doesn't take over the role that is assigned to another body? What's your comment? I'm asking that because Kenyans are listening. You withdrew the word suppression, but you seem to be saying that IEBC can regulate the media. And I just want us to be sure that what are you communicating that you would do together with the commissioners insofar as the question that Fatma asked is concerned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now that you have made a disclosure, sir, yes, it's true to the panelists that, yes, you worked like an academic journey with the prof, and there is one statement, I was so frustrated many times, you know what happens. And he called me to his office and told me, Lodompu, you will graduate as you are signing those documents. So now that there's that disclosure, I've met him a long time through my academic life, and that's it. Now, suppression, Prof, is a relative term.
No, you have already withdrawn.
Yes, I'm trying to bring it up
Okay.
for the purposes of this issue. It's a relative term. Suppression in military circles means that the enemy is made to be weaker. Suppression, at some point, as explained, is that people must have, rights. Rights are there, and what I was trying to bring about is about obligations. Where do rights stop? Rights expressly free space for everyone. So suppression, therefore, and that's why I used open space, that's why I used the open dialogue, is about the ability by the Commission to open up discussions with the media houses. However, they have the media guild, which also controls what kind of information goes to the public. So I'm saying that it is critical to look both sides of the coin, because you saw what happened in 2007 through this media communication. And if everybody becomes responsible, then, Prof, all rights, even if they are not limited, as you are saying, must have obligations. Yes, it is my right, but how obligated are you as an individual when you are taking whatever action? That's what I want to bring out, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let me go to another limb of integrity. In light of past electoral disputes in Kenya, particularly the findings of the Kriegler Report 2008 and the 2023 National Dialogue Committee report, what specific actions, if any, would you take as a commissioner to promote transparency and inspire public confidence in the IEBC's operations?
Thank you, Prof. It is very critical, sir, that we look at an IBC as a center stage for dialogue purposes, for execution of electoral processes. And if you look at what is in Article 87, Article 87 is about electoral disputes. Electoral disputes emanate from many sources. And it is critical that...
Those are live pictures coming to you from South Sea, where the IEBC commissioners' interviews are ongoing. Of course, as I told you, we shall be keeping tabs on that in the middle of our programs. We get back in studio and continue with our conversation on cross-border payments with Edward Nakitare, who is the KCB Senior Manager in charge of international money transfers. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, what is it and how is it helping this cross-border payment space?
So the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is an infrastructure that was built to support African payments. As it says, Pan-African. One of the things, part of the African Continental Free Trade Area was how do you move money, right? So as you do trade, you should be able to move money. And so PAPS came in to provide that solution. So PAPS in itself was constituted by the African Export and Import Bank. And one of the tenets of PAPS is to be able to push or transfer money instantly, right? And whilst at it, allow users on the network to send money within or using their local currencies. So let me give you an example. Assuming a Kenyan is doing trade with somebody in Ghana, Accra. So I'm buying Kente. Ideally, the whole idea behind PAPS is to enable this trader to be able to get an invoice in Ghanaian cedis and pay it in Kenya shillings, relieving the pressure of having to look for USDs or foreign currencies to be able to support that payment. And so as KCB, we were the first bank in East Africa to join the PAP network. So PAPS it's a network of banks. So banks join onto the network, countries and banks join onto the network. And KCB is the first bank in East Africa to do that. And the whole idea behind it is to be able to support our customers to do trade within the region or within Africa. Yeah.
And of course, we know that trade is only going to increase now that experts are saying that Africa needs to look inward. There is the AFCFTA, the free trade area that wants to ensure that we are tapping the African population and that market that it provides. So when you look now forward, what are you looking to see in this space as we come to a close of the conversation?
So I love that question. One of the exciting things that I hope to see is the overdependence that we've had on foreign solutions for moving money across Africa. As we look inward, I think there's a lot of business that can be done. There's a lot of trade that can be done within Africa, right? If you imagine how big the continent is, and if you're on social media and you by chance happened to find yourself on, say, feeds from another country, say Nigeria or Ghana or wherever, you see a vibrant society. You see people doing amazing things, right? People looking at, let me give you an example, very practical example, at least for the East African perspective, just to see how Africa is. I like to grill, right? And I've been looking for a good grill, you know, to be able to do my grilling. And I found this company. It's a small entrepreneur in Tanzania who does the most amazing grills, like everything you'd want in a high-end grill at a fraction of the cost, right? So imagine a trader like that, and then expand that to have traders everywhere else, right? So you have a trader maybe in Morocco, you have a trader in Zambia, you have a trader somewhere else who has such a unique product that has a way better comparative advantage in terms of building it in their country compared to here. If I needed that item, I need to find a way to pay for that item for them to shipping. We've done a good job at figuring out how to move things around. Like if you wanted to move things around within Africa, it's not the hardest thing to do, right? Granted, it has its challenges, but there is a way for you to move it around. But then how do you pay for that item, right? So now PAPS comes in to solve some of these problems, right? So if this guy tells me I'm selling this item for say 4,000 Tanzanian shillings, I should be able to pay him, right? I shouldn't have to go look for dollars to pay for the service. Right. Same thing if a guy is sitting in Zambia and he's selling me something, or vice versa, somebody is getting something from Kenya, the Kenyan should be able to receive money directly to their account, because you need the Kenya shillings. Tomorrow when you walk out, you're going to pay for something in Kenya shilling. The other guy will pay in his local currency, right? So it being an instant service and being able to pay in your local currency, that is a game changer. And then secondly is being able to package PAPS for not just for the banks as a financial institution, and KCB is doing this, is to enable open APIs so that customers can actually consume them. So if the fintech is doing business cross-border, how do we give you this APIs on PAPS so that you're able to push money back and forth? So quite excited about what's coming next and what PAPS is going to do, and the markets that PAPS is going to open up for a lot of our customers as KCB.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Edward, for sharing your thoughts. Of course, we are looking forward to all those innovations coming up in the cross-border payment space.
Absolutely.
Asante sana. I have been speaking with Edward Nakitare. He is KCB's Senior Manager in charge of international money transfers, talking about cross-border payments, and of course things are looking up. More innovations are coming up. Fintech and banking sector, of course, doing a lot of collaboration in that space, and hopefully there will be no need to be sending dollars to pay for Zambian goods. You can just send the Zambian kwacha. Well, that is it for that conversation. I would like to now join my colleague in Kisumu, Simon Achola there. Of course, we know that animal feed, the costs of animal feed production and purchase by farmers has been on the high, and a number of farmers are looking for cheaper ways to come to just make their own animal feed to make sure that production costs are going down. Of course, we know that the high cost of animal feed in this country has led to the increased costs of products, animal products. You get that some of the stuff that you buy in Kenya is much more expensive than stuff that is maybe imported from Uganda or Tanzania because of the high production costs. And this particular group in Kisumu is using water hyacinth and other organic products to come up with those animal feeds. Just Simon Achola, please tell us what that group in Kisumu is doing to come up with their own animal feed. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much, Betty Kiptum. Indeed, it's a chilly and rainy morning here in Kisumu County. And of course, it has been raining since 6 a.m. in the morning. And of course, that is good music to the ears of farmers across the country, those that have actually been preparing their land as they prepare for this long rain season as they continue to plant. But also today, we also, Betty Kiptum, have very good news for farmers in this region, especially those involved in animal farming. And there's a group here in Kisumu County that is actually utilizing material from the lake, and of course other waste material from rice fields and sugarcane plantation, in terms of just making affordable feeds for farmers. Now, the issue of the prices of animal feeds in this country has been talked about for a very long time, and of course farmers have come out to complain about the cost of animal feeds, and of course that goes towards the inputs and the things that are actually needed in terms of production of animal feeds. But all said and done, Betty, with me today, of course, is a group here in Kisumu County that they will just try to explain the reason behind their thinking in terms of utilization of water hyacinths. Of course, we know water hyacinths has been a menace in Lake Victoria, and also the rice fields after the harvesting of the paddy rice and also the bagasse. What actually propelled them into utilization of these products in terms of production of animal feeds. Karibu sana. Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Beatrice Akoth from Lake Victoria Green Initiative. We do a lot of stuff like produce animal feed, fertilizer, and bioethanol. So today here, it's more of bioethanol and animals feed. But as we want to talk about what animals feed today, there's, my colleague will explain the details of it, but I would just say the whole umbrella is Lake Victoria Green Initiative, and the main focus is to ensure that water hyacinth in the lake is well taken care of, and it doesn't cause any harm, because currently it's an nuisance and it's killing the life in the water. There's no transport, there's everything. So we are just trying to ensure that we make this use of water hyacinth to produce things that are useful in the society, which one of them is the animals product that Lillian is going to take us through the process of how we make it.
Just before I talk to Lillian, this Lake Victoria Green Initiative, what actually advised its formation, and why have we decided that we are going for animal feeds?
Why we have decided to go for animals feed is because, especially this part of the country, we are not getting enough food or fodder for the cattle. So we were checking on what we can use that can make the prices go lower. So that is why we have resolved to water hyacinth, rice grass, and bagasse. These are all waste, actually, but we want to see that we make use of the waste to bring something that is productive. And also, like, we have also checked, as much as we're in the pilot stage, we have worked with the farmers, and the feedback is quite good in terms of getting milk and the meat,
It is a tedious process just to get this water hyacinth from the lake, and of course coming with them all to this particular place. So then we can actually begin the process. How are we prepared in terms of just ensuring that indeed, that even as we go out there, that indeed the cost ultimately are within manageable limits?
Okay, currently I would say like getting water hyacinth or harvesting water hyacinth has not been very easy now that it's a wind pattern, because sometimes we may think like we are going to get it within Kisumu, but you find like the wind has taken it somewhere else. So that makes work very difficult, because sometimes you have to use the boats to take it inside the lake to get it from there. But what we are trying to do is, okay, currently like Victoria Green Initiative, it's a trustees, it's a foundation where trustees are volunteers. So that also makes the work a bit like it stops in a way. But then we are out here to see like whatever we are doing, it's going to be very manageable, and we are checking on the current prices of the feeds so that we are just within the market or even a bit lower. So we are also out looking for maybe donors or funders to help us take care of the cost of production. Because if you want to go for the normal harvesting of water hyacinth, we can't cover that. And then if you want to go into the rice grass farms, and you know, it's going to be a little bit expensive. So those are some of the checks and balances we are taking care of, so that we don't go outside there and then we are frustrated to sell our products.
Comparatively, in terms of nutritional content, how is it compared to other feeds? And is this something that a farmer who is actually watching this particular program will actually be looking forward and saying that this is something that I want to do?
Yeah, we have actually taken it for the test, and the results are out in terms of the digestibility and all the nutrients that are required inside. Everything is within the limit, and actually some of them are quite better. If you check on water hyacinth has a a good level of protein when it's crushed when wet. So that is what we are actually working on. And that is also another challenge we are getting, because when it's crushed wet, then it needs to be used almost immediately. So those are some of the things that we are checking out. But when in terms of digestibility, nutrients within, it's on top. Yes.
Farmers who are actually looking at this particular program and asking themselves, where can we get this product? Are we already in the market, or we are in the process of actually getting this product in the market? And also, are you seeing the viability of actually having this program rolled out in the market, in the larger market, so then farmers from this region can actually access the product?
Currently, we have not launched officially in the market. We are in the pilot stage. We have used a number of farmers to first test it, and yeah. But our dream is to go. Actually, we are targeting the northeastern part of Kenya, where they have a lot of cattle, but then feeds are it's not easy to get feeds. So we are soon launching in the market, and that is why we are out here. But anyone who wants to get the product, currently it can be sold out. It can be given out to farmers, yeah, because all the processes are done. It's only like we are now our final stage to get into the market and have it in the shelves. Yeah.
Usually we do these things, we come up with innovations out of either personal experience, or we have actually shared with people who are actually closer to us. The starting of this particular project, was it out of the fact that you are a farmer and you wanted to engage in other feeds and animal feeds, so actually driving you out of market, or this is something that you just looked and said that this is something that I want to do?
I know we have a vision bearer, actually, who came up with the animal feeds idea. We have other people who are in ethanol and fertilizer, but specifically the animals feed. I know you'll interview him at some point. It's a long story, but to cut it short, he's a Norwegian who was working with someone from Poland. And the Poland guy had been to Kenya, this part of Kenya, and told him the issue about water hyacinth. That was a nuisance in Kenya. And then he just, because he's a business guy, so this Polish asked him to come up with an idea of taking care of water hyacinth. I think it was back in 2021 or so, when it was really big in the lake. So he just came, visited Kenya, and saw when it was still a big issue and all that. So all along, he's been really visiting Kenya back and forth to see a solution. So that is why we are here today with the process and the idea he had behind it. So that is actually how the whole thing came. And then why animals feed? He also realized there are other areas of Kenya that doesn't have animals feed. So he was like, if this thing can be used, and you see the animals can be grazing around it, then he was like, let's test it and see if it can be used for animal feed. Then he was looking for other things that are already being used by the animal, and then they look like a waste. So that like rice grass and bagasse. So he was like, let me see how we can use the waste to bring the whole animal feed, a unique animal feeder in the market. So that is why we are here and working on this product.
Is this restricted just to livestock, or we can actually, or cows, or we can actually go to other animals in the market, pigs and whatever?
And all that. Pigs can use it. So mostly we have worked on the animals, but pigs can use it as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. That is Beatrice.
And all that, yeah.
That is Beatrice, of course, just sharing the vision behind the starting of this particular enterprise, but also we have Lillian here who will take us through the process of actually having this water hyacinths from the lake, and of course also bagasse and rice grass, so that then they can actually have this product. Lillian, just take us through the process. What exactly happens?
Okay, good morning again. My name is Lillian Peda from Kisumu, actually Sisa. Chilly morning, eh? So here, as my colleague has explained, we do the production of animal feed and bioethanol. So today we want to take you through the process and everything that we do to produce our final product, which is the animal feed. So we use, as she has said, we use water hyacinth from Lake Victoria. That's why it's called Green Initiative. And we use molasses. Our molasses, we take it from Kibos Sugar Company. And also we use rice grass. We took our rice grass all the way from Ahero. And we also have bagasse, which we also took from Kibos. So what we do, we have a mixture, which is on the other end. So we take the bagasse together with the, before that, we have a machine here. This is the machine here. We have a machine. So we crush them. We take them there. We took them from that point, but definitely from that point, they are still wet. So we bring them here. We try to sun-dry them. After sun-drying them, we crush them into smaller pieces. After that, both of them, the rice grass and the bagasse. After that, we took them in the mixture. After mixing them, we add we add we had the word from the lake, sorry. The hyacinth, thank you so much. We had the hyacinth from the lake, but we always love adding the hyacinth when it's still wet for it to give it a bit of the taste. And then after that, after adding the 3 products, so the final product is always what is it called? The molasses, thank you so much. So we add the molasses. After that, we put them into galley bags, the small galley bags that we have, which we are selling, 1 kg of galley bags, we are selling at 15 shillings. And then the 50 kgs, we are selling at 750 shillings. And then that's our final product. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we are hard-pressed for time. Would have wished to talk more, but that is a fantastic initiative. Of course, we'll be watching out to see how this particular project pans out. Betty, that is Green Lake Victoria Green Initiative group here in Kisumu County, of course, taking us through the process of coming up with animal feeds here in Kisumu County, of course, drawing their raw material from Lake Victoria, that is water hyacinth, and of course bagasse, and also rice grass from Ahero rice fields here in Kisumu County. And what they're saying is that they're trying to leverage on whatever the available products they have here in Kisumu County, so that then they can actually come up with products that are actually going to be affordable for farmers across the country, and ensure that those who actually take the trouble of farming can actually get something tangible out of their toil. Of course, this is a story that we'll be keeping a keen eye on, so that then we can see how it actually pans out. Back to you, Betty Kiptum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my colleague there, Simon Achola, coming to us from Kisumu, of course, with a very uplifting story about those ladies there, that group that is making animal feed from water hyacinth. That has been quite a problem in Lake Victoria, and the fact that they are using it for good is quite commendable. We hope that they get the support that they need so that they can be able to scale, because the market for such animal feed in Kenya is still very much big. Now we want to get in studio and start a new conversation on matters artificial intelligence. Kenya launched its artificial intelligence strategy, and to break it down for us and just have a conversation on the future of Kenya's AI space is, Harry Hare is the founder of CIO East Africa and shall be talking to us in a little bit. I'm informed that we need to take a quick break. When we come back, the AI conversation begins. Stay with us.
We are joined by pastors' wives who are going to share their stories. Here I am, 20 years down the line, a pastor's wife.
Along the way, he became a pastor. But when we began together, he was not a pastor.
In the year we were dating, Marvin became a pastor.
There's a big misconception that a pastor's wife should have wigs.
I had so much pressure on how do you dress up, how do you... and it was very depressing.
I fell into the trap of trying to fit into people's expectations.
Sometimes we think we are very ready for it, but actually we are not ready.
You cannot do marriage alone. You have to have people who you're looking up to.
You have to adjust as the time goes by.
Yes.
When things are thick, you also look for help.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. You are watching BizCheck on KBC Channel 1. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, the second hour of the program, we shall be talking about the artificial intelligence strategy, Kenya's AI strategy, with Harry Hare, who is the founder of CIO East Africa. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Karibu sana. Kenya's AI strategy, it was launched. Please give us a snippet of what was in there.
So it's a plan. A strategy is a document that provides guidance or guidelines on what a country wants to do with AI. If you look at what is happening today across the world, it's like a scramble for AI because everybody is trying to position themselves to see how best their country can benefit from this emerging technology. And Kenya, like any other country, is of course ambitious to start thinking about how do we benefit from this emerging technology, and that's why it was necessary for the government to have a plan. So if you look at the plan, I think people need to read it, but if you look at the plan, basically it covers 6 key areas. So looking at infrastructure, what kind of infrastructure do we need to actually start even thinking about AI? Looking at data, because AI feeds on data. So if you start talking about AI and you don't have any data to talk about, then you're like daydreaming. So data is a key component of AI. Then of course talent, and this talent conversation here is kind of, it can be very controversial if you want it to be.
We will talk about it.
But there's talent and talent development as one of the key areas. Then governance, that also is very controversial. Because you see, when you start, when you look at these new technologies that are coming out, they're very nascent. They're powerful but nascent. So when you start talking about governance, what are you governing? What are you trying to govern? Because this is an evolving, it's an evolving thing, it's an emerging thing. But anyway, so there's structures around that. Then investment, and lastly, looking at ethics, which is even a bigger controversy. Ethics, equity, and inclusion around AI. So those are the key pillars, of the strategy that was launched.
Right. And I think now let's break them down.
Okay.
When you talk about AI digital infrastructure, it includes the development of AI-ready infrastructure, having data centers and computational power. Please tell us, are we ready for this?
It's a plan.
Okay.
So we need to plan for it.
Right.
And from an infrastructure side of things, I don't think we're starting from ground zero. There's already plans that the government has put up, including the rollout of fiber to the farthest, remotest part of Kenya. So that I think that is a good thing. So there's fiber. But there's also, 3G, 5G, 6, no, not 6G, but 5G.
Yeah.
But 6G is coming, eh? So there's 5G, which, I think right now, networks like Safaricom and probably even Airtel have some cells within the country where you can do 5G. So the infrastructure piece, apart from now, when you move to the data centers, is where now we still have a challenge there. Because you see, for us to be able to equitably participate in the AI space, then we need serious compute power. And compute is what is currently lacking. So we do have data centers, so we have processing power, we have storage power, but we now need to get what they call GPUs to be able to get compute. Yeah.
And of course, it is good news that we're not starting from scratch.
Yes, it is.
So that means it gives Kenya some sort of an edge or an opportunity.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
So Kenya should take advantage of the opportunity.
Definitely, definitely. And this strategy is a good thing because it means we're already thinking and we're already planning on how we can benefit from this. And therefore, actually, if you look at across Africa, there are very few countries that have come up with a strategy. I think one is Nigeria, and I think South Africa. I don't know any other country that has an AI strategy. And there's a lot of push from both private sector and government for Kenya to play a key role around AI. And I think we have the potential to do that. Yeah.
I think they say that Kenya is very good with coming up with papers.
and then
other people take them and they're like, yay, we're going to do this.
That's
so
true.
I don't know. I don't know if the goodwill is there to have this actually implemented.
I can't talk about goodwill, but what I can talk about is the practicality of AI. And this is where we also need to, as a country, and probably even as a continent, sometimes I feel like we need to step back and then, not for long, but just step back and then make a decision. What do we want to do in this AI space? Do you want to become consumers or do you want to become producers? Yeah, because why I'm saying that is I strongly believe that we missed the internet opportunity. When the internet was starting, we missed that bus. And we became consumers of the internet. Yeah, so we consume internet, but we're not the builders. So the guys who are making the dollars, the guys who are making the money are the guys who have built the internet. So, you have all the big techs who put in invested and now they're reaping out of it. So we're at that point, when it comes to AI, where we can make a very solid decision and say, okay, yes, we can be users, but we can also be builders. Because I think we have the capacity to be builders. But then it takes a completely different mind shift to build as opposed to use. Yeah.
Even we know that AI is pretty new, especially in our region. What is your thought in terms of the understanding of AI? Like when you walk in the streets and you ask someone, what is your understanding of AI? How do you think the Kenyan space looks like in terms of understanding what AI is before we even start taking advantage of it in the first place?
I think everybody thinks AI is ChatGPT.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a good thing because at least there's
something there.
There's awareness.
Yeah.
And also, other than awareness, there's that knowledge that I can use ChatGPT to do ABCD. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Yeah. That there's that awareness. But I think if you look at the industry, the AI industry, now that's a completely different ball game. Because you see, we're talking about $2.6 trillion opportunity just within Africa, if we can get our act right, where startups can build things that people can use, people can buy, and we develop it here for our people, and we benefit from it.
Right.
But you see, again, that's what I'm saying. You know, it takes a different mindset where, because you know, here now you're talking about investment. We have to invest. You can reap where you don't invest. So we need to have to be bold enough and say, okay, we're going to invest $1 billion to have research labs for AI. Where now our people can go in there, do research and build products, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up the research bit of it, because if we are going to take advantage of AI, we have to research and innovate around AI.
Yes.
And we know that for the longest time, research, leave alone AI research in itself has been highly underfunded on the African continent.
Yeah.
Do you see it being different with AI?
There's a push. I'm one of those noisy people who like pushing the button and saying that I think we need to look at AI differently. That we need to look at AI as a business opportunity as opposed to just a product that we can buy and use. And if we go that direction, then we have to invest in research. We have to have labs. Like for instance, the other day I was talking to somebody, and there was a big event in Kigali last week on AI, and there's a fund that was announced in the declaration. I think it's a $60 billion fund, AI fund. So I think 50% of that fund, if it's there, that is, 50% of that fund should go into R&D. It should go into research and development. That's the only way Africa can actually benefit from this trend. Yeah.
And now let's talk about what you talked about, talent. We have to prepare our people to be able to take advantage of it. We know that in Kenya, the populace is very well educated, very tech savvy. So what is that needs to be done to ensure that these people are now ready, AI ready, for the opportunities?
I go back to the first point. What do we want to be? Do we want to be builders, or do we want to be users? Because now that defines what kind of talent we build, right? What kind of talent we develop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from where I sit, I feel like there's already activities in terms of talent development. And you can see some, not university, but some of these, some learning centers have already, people like Moringa, all these guys have already started building talent. But it's from a prompt engineering kind of readiness, where you're training to use, and this is where I tend to differ and say I think we need to switch. Let's equip entrepreneurs with knowledge to be able to build AI products and services, as opposed to training. Oh, let's train people to use, but let's also train people to build.
Right. Yeah. We know that when it comes to data, AI is trained. It's trained using data, data that is collected. And there is a lot of talk about, the people who are collecting data coming from the global south, as it were. And so how do we ensure that even as we are finding jobs for Kenyans in this space, that we still remain competitive and that our people are not used, so to say? Yeah.
Okay, they're not being used, because you see, it's willing buyer, willing seller. So guys are buying, they're really buying labor. Yeah, it's a labor thing. But I think the data conversation is deep.
Okay.
Because you see, you're right. AI does what it's doing because it's being trained using data. And I think the biggest danger for Kenya and for Africa is we have too little data online. Yeah, if you look at the global scale, if you look at so Asia, Europe, the Americas, and then you look at Africa, and then zero down to Kenya. Our content is like that little. And then, so these AI models are being used, are being trained using that little data that is available for Kenya. So that's where now you start getting biases, because you see you have very little data about you. Like for instance, and the users can go online and the viewers can go online and go to Google Translate, for instance, and type on Google Translate and say, hii nchi imejaa warabai. Warabai, I am a Mrabai, so hii nchi imejaa warabai. And then you see what you get. Total bias. Just because we don't have enough data. Google doesn't know who warabai are. Yeah? So whatever it spills out from you, it's gibberish. Because it's trying to figure out what is this, then it gives you wrong information. Yeah, that's why you find when you do even the best prompter, when they prompt AI, if that data that they're trying to look for is not there,
yeah,
AI will just gobble up something, look for something elsewhere, and then give you that output. And that's where now the inaccuracies around the outputs of AI come in. When you're told that AI is not necessarily accurate, it's because of data. Yeah.
So I believe that if we are looking at ourselves as builders, it would mean coming up with the data to train, AI systems that are relevant to our market, right?
Correct. So like you'll hear when you speak to technical people, they'll talk about large language models. So those are the ChatGPTs.
Yeah.
And then now there's a new trend, which is the small language models, which are very specific to either a certain field or a certain geography, or so that's where I think we need to play. Where we create these models which speak to us. It's our data, it's our information, it's our, even KBC, for instance, you have troves and troves of data. So you can train AI to actually understand KBC better. So that when somebody looks for whatever information about KBC, they get the accurate data about KBC. Yeah.
Right. Beyond ChatGPT, as it were.
Yeah.
What are the uses of AI that we can say can help with service delivery and product management, all that stuff? What tangible uses can you say are there potentially for Kenya for AI?
I think Kenya has an opportunity to use AI in a lot of areas.
Right.
Like I was watching, they just concluded the story on animal feeds.
Right.
AI can play a role there. But again, it needs some work. But looking at just the properties of hyacinth and say, okay, this is what you're doing, but actually you could possibly make this better by adding this and adding that and adding this using AI. You can use AI to just give you guidance in terms of how you can benefit or how you can make that animal feel better for the animal. Yeah. So agriculture is one of the areas that AI can play a big role.
Right.
Education can make, and this is controversial because you see, like lecturers in universities are struggling, trying to block AI, and you can't stop some of these trends.
Right.
How about augmenting AI into your training? Yeah. So you need to have a shift in the way you're thinking. Because you can't block it. Even if you block it in the class, they'll go home, the students will go home and they'll use ChatGPT to do their assignments.
So these are I think those are a bit of ethical matters, because assuming you're a student, you've done your project. Well, there's a meme that I saw.
Yes.
Someone prompted ChatGPT to do the assignment for them.
Yes.
But when they copied the answer, they also copied the prompt. So so the lecturer is looking at it and he's like, why does your answer start with here is a, Yeah, so when you think about that, how do you ensure that we are still meeting, so, say, the educational requirements, requirements to get your degree, your master's, or whatever it is you're studying for, while at the same time taking advantage of tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools?
So you see, I look at ChatGPT or AI as a tool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Remember, you couldn't get into class with a calculator. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're doing math out of your head, but then later on, there were some exams which allowed you to get into class with a calculator.
Right.
So I think that's where we need to do that evolution. Yeah. We look at ChatGPT or whatever AI people are using, and see what is the best way of integrating this into our education system. Because you can't wish it away. Yeah, you can't wish it away. So it's a matter of, and this is what these are some of the issues that like for instance the strategy needs to address. These are some of the conversations that need to start happening, within the education sector, but nationally. How do we ethically use AI in training, in teaching, and what is the conduct of the teacher? Because even some teachers are using ChatGPT to compose questions. Yes, no?
That is true. That's correct.
So how do we integrate this into our education system? We cannot wish it away.
Right.
Yeah.
And realistically speaking, do you think that there's a way to maintain integrity?
Yes, there is.
Really?
Yes.
Well, okay, that is, as you said, quite an issue to discuss. And I think healthcare is another industry that can also use AI very nicely, right?
Yes,
Please talk about that a little bit.
So health is especially, say organizations like Cambry. Nowadays, I don't hear much about Cambry. At one time, Cambry was everybody knew what Cambry was doing, and the introduction of Cameron and all that stuff. But Cambry as a research institute in the health space, I think those are the guys who can really benefit from it, because they can use now AI for their research and development of drugs, of vaccines, of all these things. Even just improving some of the things that we already have. Yeah, I was sitting somewhere and there were people talking about microbiology and all these things. So that's where AI plays. That's where AI has a very big advantage, because we can do computations faster and more accurate than the human. Yeah. So healthcare. Especially in the area of research and development, I think that's a big one. Yeah.
And for us to adopt AI into all these specific places and be builders and have solutions that actually work for us, as you said, we need to invest.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
From a funding perspective towards AI, and also how affordable is AI? Assuming I'm a business person, I want to incorporate AI into my operations. How cheap or expensive is AI?
Okay, so from a business perspective, if you just you run your shop, you have your business, and you want to integrate AI, I think that's not it's not too costly, because there are tools that can help you, from Copilot to all these things. That people like Microsoft have built, which integrate into your everyday workflow. So if you're an accountant, it comes into your Excel. If you're a journalist, it comes into your Word. If you're a marketing person, it comes into your PowerPoint or whatever it is. So that's an easy. It's not difficult to do it, and it's not too costly to do. But when we start thinking like builders, that's when now we start racking up bills, because you're looking at investing in data centers that can compute, and those NVIDIA GPUs are super expensive. You can imagine if the private sector is struggling to to have a GPU in their data center. So you can imagine the kind of investment it is. So it's huge investment. And that's why you find the front runners, which is right now the front runners is the US and China. China is becoming a big competitor because initially
they caused some market crash of some sort the other day.
Initially, America thought they were the front runner, but now I think China is, if not level, probably slightly ahead of them, because now they've found, and that's where research comes in. They found better, more efficient ways of actually computing AI. So that's where the investment will be, and it's in millions of dollars. Yeah.
With all the problems, so to say, that Africa is handling, all the needs that there are in the continent, vis-a-vis the amount of money, you know, for that stuff, and how deep in debt a lot of African countries are. Do you see African governments investing in this space? It's the wise thing to do, eh?
It's a catch-22 because you see, so you invest in this, and then you probably build a whole industry, which can generate revenues for the country, can improve agriculture in the country, can improve health in the country. You see, so it's a choice that countries will have to make, but you can't ignore it, because you see, if you ignore it, you are left behind. Then you become a consumer, and the other people just say run to the bank happy.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not just a job of the government. There has to be collaboration, right?
100%. It's a collaboration, and like for instance in Kenya, we already have a private sector putting in quite a bit of investment in data centers. So it's a matter of how do we now collaborate to bring compute to a country. Yeah, I think in Africa, I think it's only two countries that have compute, Morocco and South Africa. Yeah.
Right, so there's still opportunity there.
Massive
opportunity. Right. Governance issues, governance of AI. You said that, I mean, this area keeps changing by the day, by the minute.
Yeah.
So how will we get the governance bit right?
I think, so I have a controversial thinking around this, because I believe you need to understand something to govern it.
Right.
Yeah. So if you don't even understand how this thing is going to morph, how you're going to govern it. Because I think the moment we start thinking about regulation and governance around AI, we will miss the boat.
Okay.
Yeah, we will miss it. Because, you see, we will start creating roadblocks for ourselves. Whereas, if we allow, and there's some things, there's this thing called trust. I think digital trust is a big thing. I think we need to create frameworks where we protect our citizens from an ethical use of AI, but let's not become too invested in creating regulations and governance and all that stuff. I think if we go that direction, then we will miss the bus. Yeah.
The other day, I saw a post on LinkedIn. Someone was saying that there was a case that was filed in, I think, the western part of the world, that LinkedIn introduced a feature that uses people's posts to train AI and automatically activated it in people's accounts without consent. You get just introduced and we go. I went and checked my own settings and I saw that it was actually on. Then I switched it off. Now, from that, how do we ensure that we are still protecting ourselves,
I think
this suit was filed in the West. I'm not even sure the African continent is...
There's been a lot of that.
Yeah.
Even, I think it's Washington Post. I think they sued ChatGPT for using their content to train AI. No, using they sued OpenAI.
The owner of, or the maker of ChatGPT.
Because of using their content to train it. So those things are there, and they're happening, and we'll keep seeing them. But I think there's some laws which protect us. So for instance, like in your case, you see data protection, because you see that's data.
Right.
Yeah. So the data protection law, even GDPR at an international level, protects you from such kind of things, and you can actually sue them. Yeah. So there are laws. I don't think, because you see again, AI is so intertwined with data that the data laws can actually be used to force people to behave ethically around AI. Yeah.
Right, but I think the issue is awareness.
Yes, I think awareness. Because you see, again, you're right. Because you see all these tools, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, they have privacy statements. Yeah, where a lot of us, when we open those accounts, you just say next, because you're not reading.
Yeah, until you approve or whatever.
Yeah, when you say next, you're accepting something, but you haven't read, and therefore it gives them that power to use your data or to do whatever they have to do because you didn't read, but you said next and click to that thing there.
So it's reading the fine print.
Yes.
But how many people understand that fine print, though?
But we have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think maybe there's a gap in terms of sensitization from a data protection perspective on what you need to do to make sure that your data is safe, right?
I agree. And I think that's where now the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner comes into play. And I know they've been doing some awareness. I've seen tracks where they're, but I think there's more. We need to do more of that. Probably, I don't know, maybe at a micro level where you start even from the schools to train people on how to protect their data. Because you see, children are also big victims of data, especially when you start looking at things that happen online. Yeah.
Right. We know that one of the negatives that has come up with AI is issues of misinformation and disinformation. You know, people are taking people's photos, videos, whatever it is, and they are turning them into something else. How can this be? Is it even stopped? Is it even possible to stop it? Yeah, but how can we ensure that this is not being misused?
Deepfakes is our new life. It's difficult. It's difficult. There will always be bad actors because it's not everybody who uses AI that uses it for the best reasons. There's some people who will always try to use whatever tool it is, be it a gun, a computer, or whatever it is. You know, even computers, people use a computer to steal money. You know, they're called hackers. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So these things will, the evils will be there. But then I think the bigger question is how much evil do you tolerate versus the positives? Yeah. So I think we just need to look at that because it's difficult to stop some of these things. If somebody is hell-bent to create an image of you looking in a funny way, they will. But I think I know some of the laws that are there can protect us from that as well. So we honestly, it's just looking at. Sometimes I feel like we create regulations, we create laws that sometimes overlap because we haven't gone back. Like the penal code. If you just look at the penal code, you could probably get some content in there that protects you from some of these new crimes, if I call them that. But because we don't go back there, we create a new law. Yeah. So I think if we just look at our laws, especially around data protection, even just protection, even your rights, just your rights in the Constitution. Some of these speak to the new kind of things that we are facing today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from a user perspective, I don't know, you're aware of the incident where a senior official posted a deep fake from an international media organization,
Yes.
and you know it was a whole dramatic situation there on X.
Yeah.
So from a user perspective, what would you tell Kenyans who are listening in terms of consuming content and using AI?
Do not share something that you haven't verified.
Mm.
Yeah, because you see, there's a lot of stuff going all over the place, and I think we, you know, I know people who actually just forward things. You haven't even read. You've seen a link which has been sent to you. You haven't even clicked on that link, but you forward it to somebody, and somebody else forwards it. So I think I think we need to. I feel like we're moving too fast, and sometimes we need to just take a pause and look at, okay, so this link has been sent or this information has been sent. You just read through, and sometimes when you read through those things, you can see this is it's not true. It's misinformation, or it's something that is fake. But you see, because we're so fast. On our fingers, on our mobile phones, you know, we're just pushing stuff around. Then we spread falsehoods, which then come back to bite us.
Mm-hmm. Verification.
Yeah.
And also, there is one I was told that you should not use your personal information on prompts when you're doing prompts, because that is how the AI is learning.
Yes,
and it could use it somewhere else.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there's even a case of a guy who was fired because they put very IP-based kind of information on ChatGPT. Yeah, then it was found out. So,
right. So even as we use these emerging technologies, so to say, we have to be careful and use them for good.
Yes.
Right. So what is the future looking like? AI in Kenya, the Kenyan AI space. What is it looking like?
I am one of those optimistic people.
Okay.
And I think there's a very bright future for Kenya. Kenya is playing a big role in AI. There's a lot of little things that are happening on the ground. Because do you know we have actually startups that are already working on AI?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what gives me a lot of confidence that Kenya is in a very good place, because it's these startups who are starting to build that will become the next big thing in Kenya. So I'm very positive. I'm very upbeat in terms of what the country can be around AI. As I said, we are in the beginning of this thing. So if we play our cards right and position Kenya as the AI hub of Africa, maybe, I think that would be a good thing.
Definitely, that would be a good thing. Finally, before we close, AI and jobs. There are some people who are worried that their jobs are being taken over by AI. Please speak to that.
So there's this thing that people say. It's a people. AI will not take your job.
Right.
No, it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who use AI
are going to take your
job.
Right.
Yeah. Because it will make them more efficient. It will make them more productive. It will make them more accurate in whatever they are doing. So those are the guys who will take your job, not AI. Yeah. So jump in, man.
Yeah, you have to prepare, get ready.
Yeah.
Retool and reskill and upskill
completely.
in the AI space.
Go deep in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Your closing remarks before we close the conversation?
Just this conversation about AI. So we will be having this conversation in Mombasa during the Connected Kenya Summit, Connected Africa Summit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you know whoever is watching, just note that there's Connected Africa Summit, and we'll continue these conversations there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate it. And I really hope that you have learned something about how to use AI responsibly, what not to put when you're doing your prompts, and that you need to retool yourself, upskill yourself, and learn something about AI before someone who knows and uses AI takes over your job? Well, this is, I have been having that conversation with Harry Hare, who is the founder at CIO East Africa. We've been talking about Kenya's AI strategy. And he says that Kenya needs to position itself as a leader in the AI space in the African market to ensure that we are attracting that income, being builders, not users. This has been BizCheck. Thank you so much for your valued company, and thank you for watching every time. My name is Betty Kiptum, and Kurunzi Mashinani is coming right up in about 10 minutes. So do stay tuned to Channel 1. Bye-bye.
One of the foundations of a nation's economy is its currency. The Japanese currency is the yen. There are 6 coins and 4 banknote denominations. To prevent counterfeiting, the Bank of Japan has issued new series of banknotes approximately every 20 years. The portraits on the new banknotes issued in July 2024 were Shibusawa Eiichi, the father of Japan's modern economy; Tsuda Umeko, the pioneer of higher education for women; and Kitasato Shibasaburo, a great contributor to the prevention of infectious diseases. In Japan, the original drawings and plates for printing Japanese banknotes are produced by craftsmen with advanced skills and artistic sense. Highly skilled craftsmen can engrave 10 or more lines in a width of 1 millimeter on a plate. In this way, Japanese banknotes with beauty and dignity are produced daily. Today, cashless transactions are becoming more and more common. However, electronic payments could be unusable due to natural disasters. That's why a dependable physical currency is still required. To ensure that trust, many technologies are applied to prevent counterfeiting. When the reverse side of the banknote is tilted, the characters Nippon, meaning Japan, appear. Elsewhere, the characters Nippon Ginko, meaning the Bank of Japan, are printed in microscript. They're difficult to recognize with the naked eye. New anti-counterfeiting technologies were applied for the new banknotes issued in 2024. When the banknote is held up to the light, a watermark of the portrait appears. And the background of the portrait has finely crafted continuous patterns. The front features a hologram design. These are 3D holograms, so when you change the angle of view, the portrait seems to move as well. It's a technology that's the world's first adoption in banknotes. We aim to maintain high quality and consistency to ensure that this anti-counterfeiting technology will work well in every environment where banknotes are to be used. The notes have tactile marks to assist the visually impaired, applied in different positions to identify each denomination. The coins also feature anti-counterfeiting measures. Japan's highest value coin is the 500 yen. A new design was introduced in 2021. It's made with 3 types of metal in a production process that's very difficult to replicate. The ridges around the edge are arranged with varying angles and gaps, making them hard to copy. This was a world first for mass-produced coins. The most important thing is to maintain public confidence in the currency. So we are constantly striving to develop ever more advanced technologies to prevent counterfeiting. Japan's advanced coin minting technology is used for several national currencies. The same technology is widely used to produce medals and commemorative coins. Japan's superior minting and printing technologies play a vital, if hidden, role in safeguarding our daily lives. Railways are a constant source of delight when travelling in Japan. From scenic views through the train window to local lunchboxes only found at regional stations, there are so many ways to enjoy touring by rail. Serious train fans recreate the railways they love in miniature. Model railway layouts can be based on several different track gauges. The popular HO scale has a gauge of 16.5 millimeters. Japanese modelers prefer the 9mm gauge N scale. Smaller and requiring much less space, the N scale gauge is now gaining popularity worldwide. This company was the first in Japan to develop N scale products. Japanese-made N scale model trains are known for their build quality and smooth performance. The company began life as a metalworking factory. Skills developed for that technology let them make model trains that run and brake very like the real thing. Together with the extremely realistic detailing, this has gained them a worldwide reputation. Look at the details and you quickly notice how our models differ from the competition. Every corner is perfectly angled and rounded parts are all smoothly shaped. I'm proud to say that it's our superior processing technology that lets us achieve this level of realism. Model railways are a hobby much loved by young people too. And this annual contest for Best Railroad Diorama is always packed with youthful faces. The Sanriku Railway runs along a famously beautiful coast. This diorama recreates one of the most scenic sections of the Sanriku line. This layout is an idealized countryside scene.